This podcast is brought to you by Podbean. Podbean is the easiest way to create your own podcast. We use Podbean to host WokeNFree. Download the free Podbean podcast app to start, record, and publish your very own podcast in minutes. Podbean provides everything you need to run your podcast, and you can record and publish episodes directly from the app on your phone.
Download the free Podbean app today. That's Podbean. Head on over to Podbean at www.podbean.com and use the code PODCAST21 for your first 30 days of podcast hosting for free. Check it out. Hi, it's Natasha.
And Khalil.
And we are the co-hosts of
WokeNFree.
Thank you for tuning in to our 231st episode of WokeNFree. If you've been tuning in every week for WokeNFree Wednesday, you know that WokeNFree is all about being real and honest with each other and you. We talk about everything and anything important to us, you, the world, and nothing is off the table. This week, we are having such an important conversation, and it's about reducing homelessness with the Block Project. So if you want to know what all of that is, we have a special guest who's going to be joining the episode to be able to share with you what the Block Project is all about and how you can support it. But before we dive deep into the subject, a couple of things to go over. First, have you downloaded the episode on WokeNFree.com through the Podbean app? If not, please do so. That's how you put in your comments and you can join the conversation, which is what we want every single WokeNFree Wednesday. Now, if you catch podcasts on a device that you cannot download new apps on, that's okay. A couple of tiers, but it's okay. Go to WokeNFree.com, go to the listen tab, and then pick your platform of choice where you're going to support us at. So you can follow and subscribe to the show on iTunes, TuneIn, Stitcher, Google Play, YouTube. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, SoundCloud, iHeartRadio, Pandora, Spotify. It's a WokeNFree world. We're everywhere. So just, find us, subscribe, follow, and keep it moving. Also on WokeNFree.com, you can click subscribe to follow the show through the Podbean app. And on social, you'll easily find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, TikTok, Pinterest, and LinkedIn at WokeNFree. And if you have 90 seconds, which you do, it's still COVID-19 out here in these streets. Please go to the listen tab, pick your platform of choice where you're going to follow and subscribe to the show at. So without further ado, for us to get into the conversation, you got to know who we're talking to. So let's share who our special guest is. Kevin is the executive director of the Seattle-based nonprofit Homelessness. He has worked with marginalized communities since the early 80s. And in that time, he's worked at Nativity House, a drop-in center for people experiencing homelessness. He co-founded the Tacoma Catholic Worker Community, coordinated prison and jail ministry for the Archdiocese of Seattle, and directed the St. Leo Food Connection, a large emergency feeding program. He lives in Tacoma, Washington with his wife of 30 years, Tara, a special education teacher working with preschoolers diagnosed with autism, and his youngest son, a high school senior. So without further ado, check out our interview with the wonderful, the awesome Kevin from Facing Homelessness and the Block Project.
All right. And then before we start the interview and get to know more about you and your project, what we do on WokeNFree is we always ask a sort of personal question or give you a type of scenario and see how you would choose. Okay. So for this conversation, we're asking, would you rather discover a new island or a new civilization?
I'd rather discover a new civilization because I think I'd learn a lot more than I would from an island.
Awesome. Okay. I actually concur with you as well. I think a new civilization would be really exciting and also exhilarating and possibly terrifying. So why not?
Yeah. It can either be they've got lots of stuff to learn, or I need to go run to the island after
Exactly.
Hopefully they're better at stuff than we are.
Yes.
Okay. So that's interesting. I mean, I actually would go different. I'm going to go with the new island because if I discover that new island, I can hopefully lay a claim to it and it can be my island and then I can live there. I can kind of do some things that I want to. I know that I'll be under the rule of some bigger country, but hey, it's my island. That's kind of cool. The new civilization, I mean, I can't stake a claim in that. So hopefully there's something interesting about them to me, or else, I don't know, it wouldn't be worth it. So I'm going to go with the new island.
Okay.
Out of selfishness, really.
2 out of 1 chooses the self. 2 out of 3 chooses the civilization, though. But okay,
Yeah.
all right.
But I get the other point, because that's kind of cool too, to learn about the new civilization.
I was just
it's a hard
afraid I'd
choice.
get on an island and have to build myself a house, and that would not go well.
Right
you got
there
a point.
with you.
Yeah, you got a good point.
Right there with you.
I don't have survival skills.
But with that, I think we'd like to turn the gears and get right into the show, Kevin. So please explain for WokeNFree Nation, what is the Block Project all about?
Oh, thanks for having me,
Yes.
Natasha and Khalil and KJ in the background.
Yes.
Block Project is a program of facing homelessness in Seattle. And just a little bit back, so facing homelessness started when an architect started inviting people experiencing homelessness outside his office into his office to have conversations. And so our tagline's always been just say hello, and to start with that. And interestingly, because I've only been with the organization since August, the primary focus target group of the organization is not people experiencing homelessness as much as it is the rest of the community, to help them begin to see those folks who are experiencing homelessness, and then to enter into relationship, and then to see where those changes will lead. So the Block Project grew out of a desire to try to respond on a community level to the reality that too many of our brothers and sisters are living on the streets in Seattle, like they are in other cities and towns across the country. And to literally and it started to, apparently there's about 14,000 city blocks in the city of Seattle. And there were about that many people, according to a recent count at that time, who were experiencing homelessness. So they thought, if we built one home on every block in Seattle, we could provide housing for everyone. Now, of course, that's the fanciful dream that never happens. But it was also a chance to literally turn NIMBY, not in my backyard, to YIMBY, yes, in my backyard. So we work with homeowners who have reached out or been contacted or found out about us somehow. And if they have enough space in their backyard and we can fit it in with all the zoning, not so much zoning requirements, but, land size, and if there's a slope, those kinds of things, we build a 130 square foot block home in their backyard. And it's if you think of the tiny homes which are popping up in different places, those are much better than being on the street and or being in a tent. But they're the block homes are, I would move into one tomorrow. They're 130 square feet, so it's small, but it's plumbed. It's got solar panels. It's got a bathroom, shower, kitchen area, front porch that's covered. And we also work with local landscape architects to kind of create a beautiful space in the backyard, which is a win-win for the host family and for the residents. So you're living in a beautiful space where it's yours, and residents can be there as long as they need to be. Our first resident moved into block home number 1 4 years ago. Still living there.
Oh wow. Okay, so they don't get kicked out. Okay.
No, they can be there as long as they want. We don't charge rent. People who move into them have to be able to live independently. So we actually work with other agencies in the Seattle area, particularly agencies that are BIPOC led, to identify clients who would thrive in that kind of situation, and try to do a pairing with the resident and the host. And it's been a learning. The first block home was built in 2017, and we have since then. It was a process where it would take 4 months to put the house in. We have a shop in the Sodo area of Seattle where we build it like panels. Think of it like IKEA. It can all be loaded flat onto a truck, and all the groundwork has to happen, the plumbing and the wiring and all that. But we can get onto the property once the foundation is ready and put the house up in 4 days.
Wow, that's incredible.
It is incredible, and then with this new model too, we can take the house down. It's a kit, and the homes get tied together. And I don't understand it. I was a liberal arts major, but so if we sign a 5-year land lease with a ground lease with the homeowner, and if they are selling the home or moving or some other, for whatever reason they're unable to do it, we would be able to move the home.
Okay.
And so it's a slow moving process, but it's moving at the speed of community, and it's just really exciting.
Great. And then also just a follow up, does the homeowner who allows the house kit to be built in their backyard, do they incur additional costs for this, or is there?
No, they don't. So, well, they could. So we tie our utilities, the utilities of the block home into their home. We actually put 10 solar panels on each home so that most of the homes are a net gain on electricity that goes back into the system. Water and sewage can cost some, and if the host is able to absorb that cost, they do, and if they're not able to, we cover that for
Cover
them.
the cost. Wow,
Yeah.
beautiful. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, and then another question was, where does the funding come from for just building these homes in the first place?
How much money do you have? I can hit you up right now. So, no. So, as an organization, we've again, I came in August. It's mostly been individual donations. We haven't, and some foundation money. We're actually beginning now to start to do some outreach to the state to get some funding, but it's, for the most part, it's two of the three legs of the nonprofit stool. It's individuals and it's foundations, and I'm trying to add that third leg of getting either state or city or county dollars to help us expand the program.
Absolutely.
And I was going to say, the other thing though is the block project is starting to get some traction. Like, you're in Arizona and you're asking us about it. We talked with the mayor of Guelph, Ontario. There's a group called the Ndn Collective, which is out of Rapid City, South Dakota, working with the Sioux and other nations. And they're working with us now. And so we're exploring that we would build the kits, sell them the kits. They would transport them back to South Dakota and set them up in a community that they're trying to develop. And then down the road, they would like to set up their own shop and be able to do it.
Very cool.
Yeah, because it's on the ground, plumbed and wired and tied into everything else at $75,000, which is a lot of money. But when you're looking at the average cost of doing a low-income housing unit in Seattle is $300,000.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And
So
it takes years, and then you're having to find space and do all that work. So this is one block, one person at a time.
Yeah, absolutely. And this seems like such an innovative idea. Is this the first time an initiative like this has happened in this country, or is
I think in terms of just kind of doing it in the backyard, there's certainly approaches where people set up, whether it's a tiny home or a home that's more of a permanent fixture, that's happening in different places. But the idea of going block by block throughout Seattle, and we're going slow. We're just finished our 12th home and our 13th home. We're starting groundbreaking pretty soon.
Nice.
We had our momentum got slowed down. There was this little pandemic thing that happened in 2020. I don't know if you heard about that, but
absolutely.
So we're hoping to gear back up and to do 5 new homes this year, plus the project with the Ndn Collective.
Beautiful.
So, and I would say the other thing too, and we've been learning over time, I think the initial thought was that this would be a way of creating a tight community between the resident and the host. And we certainly want a close relationship, and we also help them work with their neighbors so they can, neighbors aren't like, what the hell are you putting in your backyard? Why is this happening? But what we found is that the relationship has to be driven at the speed of the person exiting homelessness. Because whether it was trauma that led them to the street or that and the trauma of having lived on the street, folks need their space to do healing. And so we had one resident who said, like, for the first 7 months, I basically never left my home. I had a space and it was quiet and I could start working on my own stuff. So some of the residents are really close with their host and have a lot of interaction, and others we're just neighbors. And so that's a learning for us. I think we were kind of hoping, I think the organization was thinking there might be more of a kind of big community setting, and that happens, but it happens slowly and driven by the person who had been experiencing homelessness.
So then when these homeless people, they're able to participate in the project by living in these houses, is the intent for them to make this a permanent resident, or is it to kind of get them up off their feet so they can go and live and just
I think the intent is for them to figure out I think the intent is for them to figure out what the need is. So again, at our first home, the resident's been there 4 years. He's I think he's in his 70s, so I don't know that he'll move anywhere unless there's a need for some physical supports at some point. and other folks have been there, for a year, and then I found a setting that'll work better for me, and I moved that. And actually this past year, and it was interesting that this became such a positive. And positive is a hard word to use with it. We had a resident who passed away, and so I was there when his two sisters came from the Midwest. My initial thought when I heard he died is he didn't die on the street, and I just took some comfort from that.
Yeah.
But the other thing is that these homes are really beautiful. They're small and they're they're well landscaped. They look lovely. And so when his two sisters came out to Seattle, one from Tulsa and one from somewhere else in the Midwest, I was with them as we walked into the backyard where the house was. And I was in front of them, but I could both feel and hear their relief when they saw the space their brother had lived in.
Oh, wow.
Oh, that's good.
And then his stuff was there, so they could collect some some of the things they had that they wanted to remember their brother by. So it is, you can live there as long or as short as you need to. The folks who are residents, they get referred to us, again, as I said, by another agency. So they still have a case manager with that agency. We have 2 social workers on staff and provide support for them, and a companionship program where mostly, whether it's neighbors or just somebody who wants to be able to come and walk alongside someone to, just to provide different levels of support for people. And again, it's driven by how much support the person wants or needs.
And what would you say are the biggest challenges to date with the Block Project?
I'd say the biggest challenge is always funding, to get enough money to do it.
Okay.
And over the last 2 years, it was the pandemic was the challenge of trying to find a way to, it's really hard to create and work on community when you can't be in the same space as another person. So I would say that's it. And then just kind of sometimes where it comes back to, we started just with this storytelling on Facebook from the architect after he was meeting with people, and it's breaking down people's barriers, breaking down people's misconceptions about who's experiencing homelessness.
Yes.
I really think nobody wants anyone they love to be living on a street corner.
Yeah, definitely.
But it's easy to other the person, whether by gender or by race or by blaming them for their problems. Homelessness didn't happen just because some people had some struggles. I mean, homelessness happens because of systemic racism and then economic disparities and the way the system is designed and the education. So we're recognizing it's a big elephant. We're taking one little piece of it, and the long-term work is going to be kind of dismantling that whole system.
Yes.
Which I thought I'm 62. I thought we'd be done with that by now. And I've apologized to my children for leaving it to them to keep working on. Because it hasn't, in some ways it's gotten worse. Some ways there are some more hopeful things. So
as a follow-up to that question, what's your biggest success for the Block Project to date?
I think the biggest success is that nobody has exited to homelessness. If they've left a home, to go, well, one person passed away, but otherwise they left a home to move to another stable housing situation.
Fantastic.
So again, it's a really small thing. I think sometimes, Mother Teresa talked about, what you do may be a drop in the ocean, but without it, the ocean will never be full. So it's just a little thing. And then I would say the next exciting moment is this collaboration we're looking at with the Ndn Collective, because our values align so much. They're outside Rapid City, South Dakota, and they started a housing thing, usually mostly tents and things, just outside town on some sovereign land a winter ago, and that was the first year no members died of exposure on the street. And so now they're looking to kind of develop some more permanent aspects to that, and so that's where we're partnering with them on. So it's just exciting that they might get replicated in other places. It's a solution I think that works. It works at the scale of community, and just the fact that you're in Arizona asking about it, and folks around the country and around as I said, Canada. As well.
All right. So I know you mentioned that you guys are looking for people to give funding and support. So how can listeners help support the Block Project? What else can they do besides just give a monetary donation?
Well, I think if they're in the Seattle area, we'd love to have them come and volunteer and meet with us and talk. It's really around those personal relationships. And if they're in other places, seek out the people in your community, because I think every community that has a homelessness issue has, there's two camps. There's the camps who just want to push the problem away and move it to the next town or the next county. And then there are folks who are trying to be creative about the answer. I think seek out other creative people and figure out what works in your community.
Absolutely.
I years ago, my sister, I was working at a drop-in center for folks on the streets, and one of my sisters was like, I could never do that. I'm like, well, great, don't go do something else. My wife for 32 years has been a special ed teacher working with children diagnosed with autism. I'm like, I could not do that job. She's good at it, and I'm glad she does it. But so find the thing that works for you, and then build on that.
Absolutely. And what would you say is the future for the Block Project?
I think the future is slow growth. One of the things we've recognized is, we can only build at the scale of community support. With our existing staffing, if we got up to 25 homes, that's about what our care team, the 2 social workers, could manage. So do we want to become a big house? I don't know that we want to become a big housing agency, or do we find ways to come alongside? There may be we're talking to different groups in the Seattle area now. Some of them might have some land, some of whom have some case management things, and maybe we find ways to partner together. And what we can bring for the Block Project is we can bring that technology, as it were. And then we have, on the organization also has, we do direct services to folks experiencing homelessness. We have at our office 4 days a week, people can come and get basic supplies, but more importantly, conversation and something to eat and a friendly face. And then we're also continuing to try to tell the story online and in Instagram, just to kind of break down those stereotypes. So people, if people want to become supporters of ours, great. If they want to start supporting some other entity that's doing something else creative, that's great. We're not very possessive of the idea or think that we have all the answers.
Absolutely. And also just follow up. Have you guys ever considered working with companies to see if they want to do advertising, and that way that's how they could, if they put, things on outside the house, inside the house, and advertise and give funding dollars?
I don't know about on house, because they're in the backyard, so it's kind of hard to do. But I should have said the AEC community, so that's Architect, Engineering, and Construction community in Seattle, has been great. They've helped with the design of the plan, and as we've adapted it from a model that you really couldn't take apart to now the model that can go in quickly and it can be taken apart. So and we've had countless thousands of dollars of in-kind labor from folks in those professions to help us both with the installation of power and water and all those things at the site, coming up with creative plans on how to do it. So it's like I don't know that it would work like a soccer jersey where we could have the logo. But maybe I'd have to think about that now a little bit. So we're trying to find ways for people to use what their talents are to help make it work.
I love it.
All right, Kevin, is there anything else you would like to share with the WokeNFree Nation?
I would just like to say to anyone out there across the country or wherever, when you're listening to this, don't be daunted by the size of the problem. Start one relationship at a time. Our motto, as I said, was just say hello. Say hello to one person, say hello to one community, say hello to one of your own fears, and try to work through it and find other like-minded people, or maybe unlike-minded people who can challenge you and make you, kind of take apart some of your own misconceptions. And don't be paralyzed by fear by the size of the program, just of size of the problem.
Absolutely.
Figure out what you can do and do it.
Love it. Thank you, Kevin, for joining. We're so honored to have you here, and we appreciate you taking the time to share your story and being so accommodating. And we hope WokeNFree Nation, you guys check out the Block Project. If you're in Seattle, help them monetarily, volunteer, donate your time, but spread the word, everyone, right? Because the more media and attention that organizations like yours get, the more funding and support you can get. So we're happy to do our part to be able to deliver such wonderful news and share the message of what you guys are doing, reduce homelessness, and like I said, one relationship at a time. Thanks
so much, Natasha, Khalil, and KJ.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks so much. And again, it's facinghomelessness.org.
Yes.
You get our website, you find out all about us, and then it'll take you to the Block Project site as well.
Perfect. Awesome.
All right. Thanks so much for giving me a chance to share our story.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Take good care. Bye-bye.
Now it looks like we are at that time again, coming to the end of our 231st episode of Woke and Free. Quite the episode discussing how reducing homelessness is happening with the Block Project in Seattle. Yes, KJ, we understand you're really excited about it. Hopefully our listeners are as well. So Khalil, what do folks need to do?
What they need to do is come back next week for the new Woke and Free Wednesday episode. Make sure you follow us on social media to follow along the conversation, and make sure you tune in next week for Woke and Free Wednesday to join the conversation at WokeNFree.com.
If you are like Kevin and you have a wonderful story with an organization you're working with, or you want to share your story and you know Woke and Free Nation needs to hear your story, then definitely come on by to our Contact Us page at WokeNFree.com to share your story. That's WokenFree.com. I said it earlier, but you can always hit us up on social, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, TikTok, Pinterest, LinkedIn at Woke and Free. And then for sponsorships and collaborations, again, hit us on our Contact Us page, exactly, KJ, at WokenFree.com.
If you didn't already subscribe, please do share the episode and make sure you come back to join the conversation every Wednesday for Woke and Free Wednesdays. Remember, Woke and Free is more than a podcast. It is a way of life. Until next time.